You guys asked me so many times to do a video about this, and I listened. Everything you need to know about DITHER. And stay with me because it's actually a lot less complicated than they make it up to be. Big news, I think this is the first video where I'm allowed to announce it. My artist Bella Kelly's new single video, Heartbreak Motel, is gonna be out on all platforms on October 8th. Please go watch the video, stream the song, follow the account, and please help me and her with our biggest project ever. Hello everyone, welcome back to MixPlus TV. Hope you're having a great day. Before we start, please check the info box down below for my mixing courses on Pro Mix Academy, free plugins, special discounts and offers, and of course, if you want to support the channel, but most important, if you really want to learn how to mix and master professionally, click the join button down here, become a MixPlus TV member, access the already big and always growing library of full mixing and mastering courses, start to finish, special videos, exclusive giveaways, and a lot more courses are being added and will be added in the next weeks. Also, you get mixed consultations with me via Skype or email. Let's get to it. For this video, I'm gonna lean on the shoulder of a buddy of mine, Ian Stewart, who wrote an amazing article on DITHER. So credit for the great information you're gonna hear goes to him. I will also link his full article in the description down below. Reason why is because he did an amazing job at summarizing the subject and explain a very nerdy and complex thing like DITHER in a way that is gonna be very easy to everybody to understand without me trying to reword his work. So first of all, what the heck is DITHER? Well, DITHER is basically just noise. It's noise added to a signal when changing bit depth, more specifically when we downgrade bit depth, to make quantization distortion less audible. It might sound like a lot already, but believe me, it's not that complicated, because the things that you need to know about DITHER and when to apply it and why we apply it do not require you to go into the deep math, okay? So we'll just give you the straight facts in this video. So first of all, when do you need to DITHER? You need to DITHER every time you reduce bit depth. And yes, that also means from 32 to 24, and we'll see that in a minute. If you reduce from 32 to 24, the strength and the type of DITHER almost don't count at all. But when you start reducing to 16-bit, a low to medium DITHER level with some noise shaping, it's probably the best option. And here I want to quickly jump to what would be the last point of the video otherwise. But there's quite some confusion out there about this specific point, which is, should you use DITHER when you go from 32 to 24-bit? And the answer is absolutely yes. And actually, this was the subject which sparked this conversation. There's an article published some time ago on B&H that kind of keeps popping up. And in this article called A Honest Look at the Mystery of DITHER, there's a section that says this: if you will be converting from 32-bit float to a 24-bit fixed, you don't need to DITHER because 32-bit float only has 24-bit of audio data with 8 bits of headroom in which the 24 bits float. If you be converting from 32-bit float to a 16-bit fixed, you should DITHER because you truncate 8 bits otherwise. So it depends. And that is incorrect and is very easy to prove. This is actually why me and Ian connected, because we agree on this point. And he sent me a quick test that I'm gonna show it to you. Here's an image of a 32-bit float sine wave faded from -132 dBFS to -180 dBFS. You see the end of the fade, all normal there. The next image is the same sine wave truncated at 24-bit using flat DITHER. You can see you can barely make up the noise, and the line is slightly truncated at the end, way below what is audible, and that's the correct way to do it, using DITHER when going from 32 to 24. Now, let's see if we don't use DITHER. You see the signal here cuts off abruptly, and you can clearly see the quantization distortion. How this translates in your music? To make it simple, every time there is a quiet passage, the tail of a reverb or a delay or a fade out, that distortion will be audible, and that abrupt cutoff will be also audible. That's what happens when you don't use DITHER. If you're liking this so far, we'll go a little more in depth. So why this quantization distortion happen and what is it? This is one of the fundamental problems and differences between analog and digital. Basically, we are trying to measure an infinitely variable source, analog, using a finite number of digital values, those ones and zeros. Because of this, there are bound to be some errors. Sometimes the analog level will be a little above, and sometimes will be a little below the closest digital value. It's like trying to measure somebody's height using a tape that only displays feet. Sometimes you will have to round up, and sometimes you will have to round down the nearest foot. In digital audio, this error is called quantization distortion. Using 32-bit floating point renders like all DAWs now have, this level of distortion is so low that it's insignificant. But when you start reducing bit depth and go into 16-bit, that quantization distortion and artifacts and abrupt cuts can be really nasty. Here's a visual representation. 1K sine wave at minus 96 dBFS represented in 32-bit floating point. You see all the points here, all right? Next is the same sine wave but reduced to 20-bit without dither. You can see the quantization errors start to be more apparent. And finally, the same sine wave reduced to 16-bit, again, without dither. You can see it starts to be a big mess. Now, let's not confuse this with the visual representation of the waveform on your DAW, because that's just a visual representation. And also there will be an argument to be made when the sound gets reproduced, all right? So it's one thing when it's in your computer, but then it gets reproduced back to and from an analog system, which is your speakers, your headphones, okay? That's considered analog. So when that happens, it's not as straightforward, but that's a whole different discussion. So when we look at this sine wave at 16-bit is a big mess. So how Dither can help solving this problem? Well, like we said before, Dither is nothing more than noise, and by nature noise is random. In the early days of digital audio, they figured out that they could use random noise to our advantage. By mixing this low-level random noise, they could add enough variation that the original signal was preserved. See it almost like using masking to our advantage. The key is that the added noise needs to be completely unrelated to the original signal. When this condition is met and the level of Dither is correct, not only does preserve the signal, it actually removes the distortion that is tied to the frequency content. Let's look at a couple more visual examples. Here's our 1K fade at 32 bits. Notice the tail end that's lower in level that we would expect to be able to capture with 16-bit resolution. Next image, we reduce that signal to 16-bit without Dither, and this is what happens. The signal drops to zero once it passes 96 dBFS, which is the theoretical limit of the 16-bit audio, and we can clearly see the distortion here. If we add Dither before reducing 16-bit, this is what happens. There are three things to notice here, as Ian says in the article. The original signal no longer abruptly cuts off at minus 96 dBFS, but instead smoothly fades into the Dither noise. 2, this results in a signal-to-noise ratio increase of about 16 dB, so this is how it helps dynamic range. And 3, the previously present distortion tones are gone, not masked or buried below the noise, but actually removed. Keep in mind that Dither you only applied at the mastering stage, because you keep processing your audio at the highest possible resolution the entire time until you either print or bounce your mix to CD standards, which is 16-bit 44.1. Nowadays with streaming platform, we can print or bounce masters at high quality, which is higher sample rate and 24-bit. But again, this is important if you've been working at 32-bit float. When you bounce or print to 24, you need to use Dither as your very last stage. And I'm gonna add the 3 addendum that Ian put in the article because I think they are important. One is self-Dither. Some people say, oh, you don't need to apply Dither if you use this or that plugin. Well, make sure. Okay, don't go with rumors unless the plugin has a Dither button that you can activate or deactivate, or is clearly stated in the manual that it automatically applies Dither, which is not a good thing because you should be able to decide shape and level. Make sure that you Dither every time you reduce bit depth. Now, one thing that I should double check, but I'm 99% sure, is if you are on Pro Tools, and every DAW works differently, so check your DAW. When you directly export a file from the project and you decrease bit depth, let's say you have a file, you export it directly from the edit page, Pro Tools does apply Dither. Actually, it states that if you bounce and you already apply Dither, it will recognize it and avoid to apply it twice. Now, I don't know if I trust this. That's not my method when I print or bounce stems. I always use a dedicated Dither. So either or, that's not a problem that I personally worry about. The second thing, if you're bouncing, freezing, or printing a complex chain of effects that you have in your DAW. Now, every DAW, again, works differently, so you should check your manual and make sure that either when you do a processing like that, whether your DAW works internally at 64, 32, what happens when you freeze or bounce or commit to a track, okay? And if your DAW reduces bit depth from 64, 32 to 24 even, automatically, when you do something like that, your last plugin in the chain should be DITHER. And this would be pretty much it. As you see, it wasn't as complicated as sometimes people make it up to be, because in the end, there are few key things that you need to know about DITHER for you to avoid bad artifacts and distortion creeping up here and there in your audio. I hope the video was useful, and if you liked it, don't forget to leave a like. Thank again to Ian Stewart. You can find his full article in the info box down below. While you're there, check all the links. And remember, my artist Bella Kelly new single, Heartbreak Motel, is going to be out on all platforms on October 8th. Please go watch the video, stream the song, follow the account, and please help me and her with our biggest project ever. Thank you for watching. Subscribe if you haven't already. See you next time.
Hands on my neck, hands grip my throat. Lift me up, man, take control. Heart is so gone, my type. Don't you know I fall for the